What up, everyone? Welcome to Profiles and Drive. Today in the studio, I have Mr. Ben Whitehair. We go quite a ways back.
Quite a ways back now.
So, brought you in here because I believe that you have an amazing story to share, and I don't want to take up too much time on my part because the audience already knows who I am, but let the audience know who you are.
So I'm Ben Whitehair, and I currently am an actor, I'm an entrepreneur, I am a social media consultant, a life coach, sort of everything. And I grew up in Colorado, and to jump to like the meat and potatoes of my story, I mean, I grew up in the suburbs and lived in like an upper middle class white neighborhood suburbs. And then what was sort of unique is we started homeschooling, my brother, sister, and myself. So I homeschooled for 6 years, and it was a very self-taught, self-driven, self-motivated. The term is unschooling, is the philosophy of thought. And so I was doing that, and then my parents got divorced, and my mom and us kids moved out to the boonies and lived on a ranch. And I was a cowboy, and I did bull riding and roping and 4-H, if anybody knows what 4-H is. I'm a champion dairy cow showman. I'm a champion sheep showman. And did that while I was homeschooling. Made money by selling my 4-H sheep and used it to buy parts to build my first computer. And I got really into technology and then eventually web design and that world of things. And as far as like my story, and I think a lot of why I'm here, is that when I moved in with my mom, so she got remarried to this guy, Mike, who essentially was an abusive alcoholic and lived in an abusive environment for many years. And, you know, it really shaped who I am, and sort of my way of coping with that was to get super motivated and focused, which I ended up avoiding. I didn't necessarily trust people.
Yeah.
And so I used it as sort of a way to avoid. It was a good way to avoid. Like, I created results in my life, but...
Yeah, I know you as a Mr. Productivity and Time Management
yeah,
master.
exactly.
Yeah.
So, but like being in that environment, I eventually moved out. Like my stepfather was, like I said, he was mostly emotionally abusive, and ultimately I decided to move back in with my dad in the city, and I went to a big public high school and graduated valedictorian and went on to college and did that route. And then came out to Los Angeles 5 years ago.
Dang.
So that was a lot.
That's a
all
lot.
at sort of like once. But that's kind of the context of my story.
Yeah, I know you came out here to be acting. I remember you also doing something for college kids as well, right?
Yeah, totally. So when I was in college, a couple buddies and I started a company called Tuition Specialists, which helped out-of-state students get in-state tuition and save money on college. And when all is said and done, I think we will have saved kids somewhere in the neighborhood of about $30 million.
Wow.
And it's sort of where I decided that I was an entrepreneur, and it sort of just came to me. My friend and mentor at the time, Will, came to me with the idea, and we basically just started it one day at a time. And we're actually in the process of shutting it down. The main university where we were working changed how they interpret some of the state laws, and a lot of things happened such that it doesn't really make sense for us to stay in business anymore. So we're in the process of finishing out with our current clients, which will take maybe another year or two, and shutting down and moving on to other things, which was disappointing because that wasn't, like, we were on track to, I mean, we'd been growing 100, 200% every year and doing really, really well. But life happens.
Yeah.
And it really has freed me to focus more on my true passion, which is acting in the entertainment industry and doing a bit of coaching and supporting people in figuring out what their dreams are and pursuing them.
Yeah, I mean, when people face that whole, because you're unlike most people, when they face that, they have to shut their own business down. Some people can go to a depression, and that's hard.
I had
I
had a few days that were tough, and it's still tough. Like, it's still sad. I mean, we were doing so well, both not only in terms of like the business and what that could mean for me, but also who we were helping, and like we were saving kids so much money and allowing them to go to the school of their dreams and all these things. So when it all came to an end, it was very abrupt too, and I was actually in the ER supporting a friend who,
Oh yeah.
like, it was like an emergency thing, and so I was in the ER helping my friend, and I got this email that was basically like, your company's shutting down, and and so I was just like, what is going on in my life right now? I've had a lot of practice handling change, and I have proven to myself over and over that, like, no matter what happens, I'll be okay. And I also, part of how I got through it was allowing myself to experience my experience, to actually go through the stages of denial. It's the grief cycle,
grief cycle,
It's
yeah.
it's straight up the grief cycle. And so allowing myself to go through that really allowed me to process it, because it's so easy for me personally to mentally just be like, oh no, I'm gonna be fine, and like push
And
it to
just
the side.
suppress it. Yeah, I know that's something I did back
Yeah.
years ago.
And it's so easy to do that for me sometimes. And I've had a lot of practice doing that, of mentally going, oh, I'm fine, not deal with the emotional side of it. That's how I dealt with my family for so long. And it worked when I was younger to deal with those things. But now as an adult, like, I catch myself and I say, no, you know what? It's okay to feel sad or experience
Yeah.
the loss or go through, like, there's this family that I've built up. I've been working with them for 7 years. I've been working on this thing, and it sort of went away like that. And experiencing those emotions and whatever emotions came up for me, and saying, like, that's okay. It's okay to feel sad or be disappointed.
Yeah, I feel you there. For me, because I told you about what happened in November, and then
Mhm.
for me, I let myself go through that experience, and then I know recently I thought, well, because things are good, are getting better and better and
Uh-huh.
better, but then it gets so easy to, like, sometimes when you have that crazy reminder of that hurt that once was. Um, I know I had a moment, because remember we were going through that process.
Uh-huh.
I think I was at a point where I thought I was just putting it aside, but
Mhm.
that night just that brought everything back, and
Yeah.
and that environment showed that it was safe to just go through with it, because I'm not always surrounded with people that are going to be understanding, and
Mhm.
that's where I put my defenses up. Like, some people, like, it's not okay to show the emotions, so I gotta suck it up.
Sure.
But then
And there's
just,
only so long that I think anyone can do that. Or put another way, I think our bodies are designed to experience those emotions, and if we don't, and we suppress them, then, like, that goes somewhere. It either messes with our physical bodies or our emotions, or it gets stuffed somewhere that eventually needs to come out. They did. Someone was talking about, like, if you watch, this is gonna sound really weird perhaps, if you watch ducks when they fight, like, they'll fight and they'll go at it and they'll get, like, all riled up, but then when they finish, they, like, flap their wings and basically get the emotion out, and then they just go back to, like, normal, and then they're, like, cruising on the pond. But if you watch them, like, when they get all worked up, like, you have to do something with that emotion, and
that's true. That
evolutionarily ducks learn to,
get it out.
flap it out and get that emotion
If only it was that easy for
out
us.
of their body.
Well, actually, we do that. Except as humans, there's the violent route, rather than there's the
Sure, there's a million ways to do it, and I
yeah.
think it's important to find, like you were saying, essentially, to find a safe space where
to process it.
you can process it and let down those walls, and whether it's with your family or friends or whomever it is, maybe it's by yourself yelling into a pillow, like, whatever it is,
I've done that.
and just
when I was
letting
younger,
it go,
I
being
was-
physical, working out, go to a punching bag, like, whatever, to release the emotions. For me, and journaling is a big thing.
Oh, that's
I'm
a
a
good
big
one.
fan of journaling and the mental processing of it
yeah,
as well.
I think that journaling is so huge, because not a lot of people, like, they think it's sort of girly. to say.
Sure, it's like,
This is
oh yeah, dear diary.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
Emily interviewed me today. He's so dreamy.
But
My mind used to go like 1,000,000 miles a minute, and it still kind of does, but, like, my mind was always going, it was always racing. And when I first started really journaling like every day, that's when like my mind started to quiet. And like, because I had all these thoughts going on all the time, and then when I started doing like essentially morning pages. I don't know if you're familiar with The Artist's Way. It's I think Julia Cameron wrote it, and it's a book basically around writers or other creatives on how to maintain creativity and basically nurture your creativity. And one of the things she talks about are morning pages, and the idea is that you stream of consciousness first thing when you wake up, like before anything, you basically start writing. Or I do it online because I type so fast that it allows me to do stream of consciousness. So I use a website called 750 Words, 750words.com. I think it's like $5 a month or something now.
Oh wow.
It's amazing. And it's just stream of consciousness, and I just brain dump
Everything.
whatever is in my brain, and it's amazing. First of all, you'll be shocked how as soon as you wake up, there's a million thoughts going through your head, through my head anyway. So for me, with my mind going like crazy, when I wake up, that's automatically kicked in. Like my brain is going a million miles a minute. But when I started building the habit of just getting those thoughts out, my mind started to quiet. And the leadership stuff that we went through, that supported a lot of it as well. But yeah, that daily journaling and meditation is huge as well. And I'm still working on building it a habit. And I find that I'll be like, wow, I'm kind of feeling stressed. And then I'll look and I'm like, I didn't meditate for the last week. Ah, crap.
Man.
I've got to do that. And yoga for me is the same way.
I love yoga.
But anything to get it out, to process, and for me, and I think for anyone, but especially for men, finding a physical way to do it can be really powerful.
Yeah.
Like that mind, body, spirit connection. That's one of the reasons why I like yoga so much, because it allows me to involve my body and physicality, you know, in doing that.
That's exactly the way I approach my workouts. Like right before I work out, I'm listening to motivational videos, just to get my mind right there, just to see like what I'm envisioning, and then when I'm working out, I'm just going as hard as I can, because it's like that challenge of how far can I go until I can't anymore.
Yeah, I do that. I wouldn't consider myself a big runner. My mom was an incredible runner, and like, I don't know, run it. You're like, oh my God, I love running. I'm like, I'm tired and sweaty. But when I do, I know it's good for me, so I do it. But so when I run, it's the same thing. I like envision like if I can, run a mile in 6 minutes, like I'll get my Oscar, But using that motivation and connecting to whatever emotions are that I'm having while I'm doing something physical.
And you brought up a good thing too, because like the whole quieting of the mind, because especially, and from my observation in terms of our I say society or culture, that we have such a go do everything sort of thing. It's like one thing after the other. Or once you complete something, it's not like like most people are like, all right, on to the next one, instead of let's celebrate for a second and then go. It's like it's like so much like I want to do this, 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 and I know that's how it is for me. Because right after, like in the morning, I know it's like I gotta get something ready for clients, I gotta get ready to work out, I gotta get the interview ready, and I gotta do this. But that's what causes me to be stressed out before the day even begins.
Sure.
So and then like for me, my part of my morning routine is because yours is the journaling, mine's I'm huge on meditation, because it's like
good. It's so good. They've done. So two things. One, yes, I think we have a cult of busyness. And I was totally bought into that. I was super busy all the time, but I became busy for the sake of being busy. I wasn't necessarily being productive. I wasn't necessarily creating results, and I was using it as a way to avoid connecting with people. Like I really was. I was avoiding intimacy in my relationships, in my friends, with my family, because I was always busy. And especially in our society, there's not a lot of pushback, because if you're being busy and doing stuff, like we celebrate that. So it's like, oh, like that's cool, you're not connected with your family, but like, man, you're doing great at work, so keep it up.
Yeah, that's true.
And that's like not cool. Like that's not okay. And the thing is, like, my dad relayed this from someone who told him, like, I especially in college, and And even now, sometimes there's like this, oh yeah, well, like I only slept 2 hours because like I was working. And,
Oh, man.
And like I wear it as a badge of honor, and I totally, I did that a lot
I
in
did
college, and I
that.
still sometimes do it. It's like, oh yeah, I was working my ass off. But it's like, oh really? You're so bad at what you do that you can't get it done and get sleep,
Oh, that's a good way of
right?
putting
Like
it.
I was like, no, like I
That's
get
a
to
really
be
good
so
way of
good at what
putting
I'm
it.
doing that I get to handle all of the things and take care of my body. Like that's
That's a really
truly
good way of looking at it,
impressive.
yeah.
And I still, I mean, I'm a very passionate person, and there are times where like I don't sleep because I'm up, I'm cranking it, whatever, and that's fine. Like I don't think that's a bad thing to
Yeah,
have that
it's a-
happen.
it's-
But I started to think like, what would it be like if I were so good that I got everything done and I got 8 hours of sleep? Like that would
That
be
would be
truly
pretty
impressive.
amazing.
As opposed to like, I'm so impressive I didn't sleep at all. It's like,
Yeah,
way to go, you treat your body like shit. I'm like, no, I don't
That
think
was-
that's
that
I don't
was-
think that's good.
That was normal for me when I was working a lot in the animation industry.
Uh-huh.
I find myself coming home, and this is when Stephanie was pregnant. Coming home at 4 in the morning, getting 2 hours of sleep, waking up by 6, up and at 'em again because I needed to beat traffic.
And sometimes, like, I mean, there are parts of my life, especially like when I was in school. I mean, I really didn't sleep that much, and I was young. I mean, I'm still young, but like I was a lot younger, and I
Yeah.
think my body could do it. I adjusted to it, and it was fine. But I ultimately realized like it wasn't sustainable.
Yeah, it catches up on it.
It does catch up with me. I'm like, I don't particularly want to die early. Like,
Yeah.
I should work on this.
Well, I want to go back to you going from the ranch, bringing a hardcore cowboy into this. I don't see you as a cowboy at all.
No, I know I'm not. I'm not. Like I mean, I
Like how that transition? Because it sounds like different lifestyles, like going from the cowboy.
Very different
How, like
lifestyles.
what was that like?
Well, it was a transition both because I was a city kid. I was in the suburbs, like no exposure to anything other than like kind of what you would think of as a traditional
TV,
upper middle class suburban home.
video games.
So yeah, exactly. So transitioning to the boonies was kind of crazy because it was this whole new world of chores and cows and horses and learning how to ride and
Yeah,
how to take care of animals. And so that was a crazy transition. I really learned dedication and a work ethic that was like every single day the cows needed to eat. Christmas morning, I wanted to see what Santa brought me. The cows are hungry and it's cold and they don't have water until you go out and get an axe and like break the ice off of their water. So it taught me a work ethic of every day. It didn't matter. Like the animals don't care if you're tired or you're sick or it's a holiday. Like they're just hungry. So that work ethic really served me when I transitioned back. Because I moved then, right before I turned 16, I moved out of the country back to the city and went to high school. And the biggest transition wasn't necessarily going from like feeding cows every day to homework, but it was that I'd lived in a very unstructured environment. So in our homeschooling, there wasn't like, from this hour to this hour, you do math, and then we do Spanish, and then we do this. It was like, what do you want to learn today?
So
We'll learn it.
Is that why you got so good at being productive with your time?
Partly, it was more so in high school, like, because so when I homeschooled and lived on the ranch, like, it was very unstructured. There really was almost no structure. As soon as I went to high school, it was highly structured, right?
Yeah,
You have
because from
these 7 classes, and it's this time to this time, and this whatever. And the first month was tough because I just wasn't used to structure. I wasn't used to deadlines. We didn't have, when I was homeschooling, it wasn't like, this paper's due by this time. It was like, we're just going to keep learning. And it was very experiential and very much in the flow of like just learning.
What was that like in terms of the different types of education?
So I love learning. I'm super passionate and I love learning about anything. The unstructured environment was cool because it taught me to be self-motivated and self-driven around like, okay, your education is up to you. You're in charge of learning, ready, go. And so as a kid, I'm like, okay, what do I want to learn? And then my parents would help facilitate whatever I wanted to learn.
That's
so
cool.
So my brother was really into the Civil War, and so we traveled the whole country. We went back and we saw all the battlefields. We went to Gettysburg,
Dang.
Valley Forge, which I know is not the Civil War, it's Revolutionary War, but but like we went to all the battlefields. We saw it in person. We experienced it. We went to the museums. We had taken a month and we traveled the Oregon Trail. Like
Shut
for a
up,
full
really?
month, we traveled the Oregon
That's
Trail and
freaking
we went to
cool.
all the sites and we saw the ruts in the road. We read the books. We watched the movies. But so it was a very immersive
Yeah, that's really cool.
education, which I think is amazing. Anytime for me that I can have an experience of it,
Yeah.
it just, and again, what I took from that was that my education and really my life is up to me.
Yeah.
So I get to choose to learn. And the other thing that was cool is that I skipped middle school, which I think middle school in America is maybe the worst place for kids anywhere.
Yeah.
In general, like your hormones are going crazy, kids can be so mean, and like no matter
I
whether
hated
you're
middle school.
I've met, I think, 3 people in my whole life who liked middle school. 3. 3 humans out of the thousands I've talked to. Because it's rough.
Yeah.
Do you swear on your show?
Yo, go
Okay,
go for it.
it's fucking rough. Like, middle school sucks for people. Like, kids are mean, and it's hard, and you don't know what you want, and, like, your hormones are going crazy. And there's this culture that I see that really, like, beats down the learning. Like, if you go to an elementary school, you ask kids in, like, 1st or 2nd grade, who loves to paint? Oh, I do, I love to paint. Who loves to dance? Oh, I can dance, they're dancing, right? And then you go to high school, like 9th grade, be like, who likes to paint? Like one kid maybe sheepishly in the back who's like a gifted painter who's gonna be like the next Picasso. And like who can dance? And like you are like the one kid like in the back like sheepishly raising your hand, but you can bust moves like nobody's business. What happened?
That's true.
Like what happened? Because people's creativity didn't change. Ken Robinson does an amazing, it's one of the most watched TED Talks of all
I know
time.
what you're talking about.
Schools Kill
Yeah,
Creativity.
Yeah.
He talks about this. It's like our creativity didn't change. The culture around it changed. But what was so cool for me was that I skipped like those middle school years where it wasn't cool to raise your hand and want to learn. So when I got to high school, I was the kid when someone like, the teacher asked a question, I'm like, I know, I want to talk. Or like, I'll raise my hand, I have a question. I'm like, do you guys know that if you raise your hand and ask a question, like they'll answer it? Isn't that cool? Like the teacher will give you the answer if you raise your hand and ask. And so I took that desire to learn, and I didn't know, I guess, that it wasn't cool. And so I was that kid, and I raised my hand and I participated and I learned. And the first month, to go back to the transition of it, it was tough. Like I wasn't used to structure, I wasn't used to deadlines. I ended up not sleeping that much, and my dad, to his credit, essentially made a promise to himself that he would never go to bed before I did. And so
wow.
he stayed up with me till 2, 3, 4 in the morning, pretty much every night for like a month until I adjusted my habits to learn like the structure and the flow and that structured environment. And ultimately, like I said, I graduated top of my class because I worked really hard, and a lot of it was that work ethic, and then I wanted to learn. Like I wanted to be in school. I wanted the information. That was why I chose to move out of the ranch, because ultimately my mom had said that, I wanted to go to a big public high school, and the way that was going to happen was to be able to move in with my dad. So I moved in with my dad and went to a big 2,000-person high school because I wanted access to resources and student groups and all of those things, which I did. I did a million student groups, and I was involved in everything, and I loved it because I wanted to learn.
Dang. What made you want to move out to LA? Like aside, like I know, like because I'm here, like I heard you like say the whole going, like wanting to learn more, of, going to a public high school. Like what sparked that passion of wanting to act?
La La Land. My 5-year LA anniversary was last Sunday. I first started acting in high school. Like the end of my sophomore year, I was in this terrible play with 2 lines. I still remember them. 2 lines. It was a terrible play.
What are the lines?
And I was a little kid. I was playing a little kid, and there were a couple of us, and we were like making fun of this kid. It was Sissy Sonny, Sonny Flood, his name is Mud. And then we like walked off stage. And then there was one, I think there were two other ones. I walk on stage, I like knocked on the door. He like opens it. I'm like, here's your newspaper, Mr. Flood. And then I walked off. And then I think I had one more line. I think I did that. I'd like knock on the door and I was like, your tire's ready down at the garage, Mr. Flood. And then that was it. That was my lines. And I loved it. I loved every second of that experience. And I was like, you know, if being in a terrible play is this much fun, what would it be like if I was in like a good play that everybody loved? And so I started acting, and I did it all through high school. And then when I went to college, I was a theater and biochemistry major because I thought I was going to go into science or like maybe engineering, but I still loved theater. So I was like, so I was a theater and biochem, and then I got through a semester of organic chemistry, and I was like, this sucks. I don't care about a nucleophilic backside attack. That's an organic chemistry thing. And so I switched. I studied political science in theater. I'm very passionate about social change. Not necessarily politics per se, but the environment of the public sector and how we can affect social change. So I was a poli-sci and theater major, and my junior year of college, I was like, I think I'm either going to go into politics, but like I don't really know. I didn't know what I wanted to do. I felt very lost through a lot of college. Like, what do I want to major in? What do I want to do? And for some reason, and I hear this a lot, I experienced a lot of pressure. Like, you have to know what you want to do, which is crazy. Like, no, you don't. You don't have to know what you want to do. You don't have to know what you want to major in. That's the point. Whether you're going to college or not, like
I heard that a lot in high school. You gotta know what you want to do.
You gotta know what you want to do. No, you don't. You don't. You don't need to know. That's the point, is like figuring it out. And if I could Spock to people anything, it would be like explore, experience, go figure shit out, and it's okay if you don't know what you want to do. And that's a lot of what I did. I just took on the burden of experiencing a lot of pressure while I did it. But so I went and I interned in D.C. for Congresswoman DeGette and worked at the Capitol, and ultimately decided that I didn't want that life for like the next period. Like I may go into politics at some point, but the life of working in politics and working in DC and that kind of thing, I ultimately decided wasn't what I wanted. And so I was like, well, crap, like what am I going to do? And then I was like, the thing that has stayed constant throughout all of the different times that I've changed my major and what I want to do, the thing that's been constant is acting and performing. And I was like, well, maybe I'll do that. And because I had done well in school, and like my dad's a lawyer, my mom had gone to grad school, I kind of felt this pressure to like, I don't know, do the traditional path, right? Ultimately decided like, I'm going to pursue what I love. What better time than now? Like, I don't have kids, I don't have a family, I'm young. What's the worst that could happen? So decided to move to LA and pursue acting. I had the tuition company going, so I was doing that. I was doing web design, and I came out to LA. I looked at New York and Chicago. I actually had a whole blog called Playbills versus Paying Bills.
Oh, yeah.
That my friend I had a friend in Chicago and a friend in New York, and the three of us talked about what it's like to pursue an acting career in the three main cities. Really, it was like, that's what I was passionate about. What I loved, when I felt most alive, was when I was on stage performing for people, or when I was on camera. And there's a Howard Thurman quote that I love that says, essentially, I'm going to maybe butcher it a little bit, ask not what the world needs, ask what makes you come alive. What the world needs are people who have come alive. So that quote to me really said, like, do what makes you happy. Because I wanted to give back. I want my life to mean something. I want to make the world a better place. And I was like, well, what's the best way to do that? And I don't know, I just had this sort of struggle. And then I was like, you know what? Do what makes me happy, because everything else will follow. Money and social change and all these things that I'm passionate about. But going into a career that I don't like is not going to help me get any of those things or make any sort of difference.
I think that's like the confusion. I know it was for me, because I thought animation. I still love it. It's what I'm
Mm-hmm.
good at, but it's not exactly what makes me happy.
Sure.
I think it's one of those things that if you're good at it, you should go for it because, I mean, no, but just because we're good at it doesn't mean anything. But
Yeah. Well, there's a lot of pressure to, if you're good at something, oh, you should do that.
yeah,
Maybe, or maybe not. Um, I think being good at something is one piece of information, but it's not the whole picture.
yeah,
The one thing I'll say that this brings up for me is, I think there's this idea that like you have to like find your passion and that it will like come to you. That like you sit and you're like, all right, world, what's my passion? Come on. And like that like lightning is going to strike. Like, oh, spelunking. I love exploring caves. Oh my God. That's not how it works.
if it was that easy here.
That would be great, right? If you could like, or like there's some test you could fill out, like, oh my God.
Oh, like those tests that you have, like those placement tests. Which is
Yeah, I know. And then it's like, you should be a garbage man. I'm like, what the fuck? No, I remember I did one in high school, and it did. It told me I should be like either like a garbage man or an aerospace engineer.
Whoa.
Like it was like I don't know. I was like, well, those are two different career paths. Like that's ridiculous. What I would advise anyone or invite people to is to go explore.
Mm-hmm.
Go experience things. Do an internship. Go work for somebody for a week. There's so many resources online. Watch videos. Go meet people. Go find the people that like, you know what, that's intriguing to me. Animation is intriguing to me. Go talk to animators. Go see what their life is like. Ask them what their career is like. You know, I think I kind of like law. Go talk to lawyers. Go see what their life is like. Experience it. Read books about it. Watch interviews with people, because that's where you'll find your passion.
Mm-hmm.
You know, anyone who's super passionate about something, I generally ask, I don't think it just struck them. It didn't come one day and be like, oh, this is what I love. It's like, no, you know what? I was working this job, and I was working like backstage at a theater, and I ended up working on the lights, and I really learned that I love that, and now all of a sudden, I'm a lighting designer that puts together the lighting grids for concerts all over the country.
Oh man, those are epic.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
How would you learn that you want to do that? I don't know. I think you just kind of do things. And so that's my invitation to people is go experience, go explore, even for a little bit. Go get your hands on, go get as close as you can to the thing that interests you. And that's where you'll start to discover, oh, I like this. I like the process of it. Because what happens is, like, especially for actors, I think anywhere, but people who want to be actors, oftentimes I hear like, well, I want to win an award. Like I want to win an Oscar, or I want the life of what it is to be a celebrity. Like I want the end result.
Yeah.
Cool, me too. But what you're signing up for is the 10, 15, 20, 30 years of the process to get there. Like similarly, people say, oh, I want to be the CEO of a Fortune 500 company. Cool, awesome end result, but if that's true, what you're signing up for are the decades of work that it's going to take to get there.
Yeah.
And that's cool, but if you don't love the decades of work and you're not enjoying yourself on a daily basis, like what's the point?
Yeah.
So find something that, I'm not going to say you're going to love every day, but hopefully most days you go, you know what? I dig this. And for me as an actor, I like auditioning. I like the marketing. I like the networking. I like producing. I like creating projects. All of those things I enjoy. So the Oscar will be a cherry on top to decades of something that I love.
I think that's like, it's so easy, because especially since we like, again, have that culture of instant gratification. Like I want to lose, like, when I meet clients, like I want to lose friggin' 10 pounds in a week. I'm like, you better find something else. 'Cause this is what I'm teaching you is a process. It's not. I'm about creating the habits and creating the lifestyle so you can drop the 10 pounds and never have to regain them. So
yes, and it's the same thing with like being an entrepreneur, for example. People are like, oh, I really want to start my own business, but how do I do it? And it seems like this big thing. It's a process.
Yeah.
It's habits. It's getting up every day and working. I didn't do anything brilliant to create this multi-million-dollar company with my friends. But what we did do was find really good people, and we worked every day.
Mm-hmm.
It was small things every day that over time added up. There wasn't some stroke of genius that like created this amazing thing. I was in class writing
process,
emails
yeah.
and building websites, and it's a process and it's habits, and I think the goal is to find the process that you enjoy. The journey is the destination, and ultimately if you don't, for me, like if I don't love the process, then when I get that end result, it's going to feel empty anyway.
Yeah.
If I spent 20 years grinding it out, acting, and then I finally get that one thing, I think if that were the case and I hated that 20 years, I would get that thing and be like, this is it?
Oh, yeah.
Shit, like why did I spend these 20 years
It's that-
doing that?
That whole thing, if you're successful but not fulfilled, it's considered failure.
Sure,
Yeah.
you know? And like, and I think it will feel empty for a lot of people if you don't at least enjoy the process of it. And what's the point?
Yeah.
Like if you're not enjoying
Having
the
fun.
process of your life, like why? Why are you doing it? Life's too short.
We don't get it back. We don't get that time back.
We don't. You don't get that time back. And maybe we get another chance, but all I know is that I've got this one and I could get hit by a bus tomorrow.
Yeah.
I hope not. Like that would, I'd be pissed. I'd be like in wherever I go
Yeah.
afterwards and be like, dude, like I had some more shit to do. What's the deal? But I mean, it's tragic, but we only know that we have this moment. And so why not choose to pursue what makes you happy and to live a life that, you know, if I can honestly say now, if I got hit by a bus tomorrow, like I said, I'd be pissed, like I'd have more to do, but on a soul level, I'd be okay with it. Like, I know that I touched people, the people I love in my life know that I love them. I've made people's lives better. I've spent almost all of my life pursuing what makes me happy.
Yeah.
Like I won. And my hope is that everyone learns that they can do that too. Like
Mhm.
it's just a choice.
Yeah.
And it's small choices over time.
Yeah, I think it's the confusion for some people is like it's got to be big, and I got to come out banging. And it's like, and I think that's like a huge illusion, so to speak.
Yeah, well, it's just my experience is that it doesn't necessarily work that way. Sometimes it can, but I think a lot of times the stories you hear that are like that, the story starts in the place where the big thing happened, and they don't tell you the 10 years that led up to that,
Yeah.
right? Any actor like, oh my God, they just got famous and someone found them in a coffee shop. No, dude, they were auditioning for 10 years. Everyone in town knew who they were, but then that one thing happened, and then the publicist puts the story out that they got discovered.
Yeah.
No, they just got their big break. An overnight success, 10 years in the making.
Yeah, that's exactly why I'm putting the show together. It's like so many people, like, are doing amazing things, but people don't know what's going on behind the scenes. Like the lessons they're learning, the disappointments they even face. I mean, my friend Justin, or people know him in the dance community as Jet Li, him and his crew had to re-audition for America's Best Dance Crew 2 or 3 times, and then before they were on the show and became champions. Now they're traveling all over the world, and now they know that they're, as far as I know, they're only known to be ABDC champions, and they don't know about the many times they were denied to make it on the show.
Yeah, and I would bet that every single successful person has a story like that.
Yeah.
And what I think is exciting about that is like it gives me permission to fail, or to know that like I've experienced it now, but like starting the company, it wasn't a big deal. Like we just started doing stuff every day, and every day we're working on clients, we work on this thing, and then like 7 years later, holy shit, we have 12 employees. Really just the point that creating something spectacular, I think, is just a series of small actions over time. There's a book called The Slight Edge that's a really quick read that speaks to that point of it's just one small thing after another. I'm doing some really amazing film projects right now that if you just met me, you're like, oh my God, that's so amazing. Like, how did you do that? It's like, I don't know, really small things over the last 5 years that have added up. And relationships that I've created and fostered and maintained year after year after year.
The whole leadership thing. I know that one of the huge things we learned is having a vision.
Yes.
How important do you think that is for people to have?
Good question. I think it's imperative. I think you must have a vision. However, I think the vision can look a lot of different ways.
Mm-hmm.
Like, a vision could be that I want to be the best dad that has ever walked the face of the planet, and to treat my wife better than anyone has ever treated a woman, right? Like, that might be my vision. I know for my dad, for example, especially for the last 10 or 15 years, that was really his vision. His mission in life was the three of us kids, and to make sure that we got to live the life of our dreams and that we had whatever we needed, and that he facilitated our growth into powerful adults.
Wow.
And that was really his mission. And he's a top-level attorney, and he had a career and everything else, but the driving factor in every decision he made was what's best for my kids.
Yeah.
But so, only to say that I don't want anybody to limit their vision to like, oh, well, it has to be to like do this or do that, or my parents think it has to be this. Like, it can be anything. But if you're not sure where you're going, you're not really going to go anywhere.
Yeah.
If you don't have a vision, that's okay. It just means that you're in exploration mode.
Ah.
Right? And I think that traps people of like, oh, I don't know what I want to do, and I don't have a vision, and crap, so I'm just going to do nothing. Like, life's over.
Oh, that's good. Yeah.
No, it just means, okay, cool, it's time to figure out what your vision is.
Okay.
And to explore, like I said, go do things. Leave your house. Read books. Watch TED Talks. Watch all of Emery's videos. Do it. Watch all of them. Figure out what it is that you're passionate about, what you care about, what makes you come alive, what excites you, what would have you get up before the alarm tomorrow because you're so passionate about doing that. I think everyone has that. A lot of people are told that that's not okay, or told that like the passion they have isn't okay,
Yeah.
or your family says, well,
It's
I
not
know
real.
that you love painting, but damn it, you're going to be a doctor.
It's not realistic.
Yeah, it's not realistic. What a load of bullshit. Because, like, what is realistic? Like, really?
That's true.
I watched it to my dad. My dad was he was in the top 1% of income earners in the country. He'd been working in big law for decades, and he got fired because the economy went to shit. He had the most secure job you could have, and he got fired. His job was no more secure than my job as an actor is. It's less ambiguous. There's a clear-cut path on, like, sort of how to get there.
Yeah.
But there's this idea of, like, well, you have to be safe. There's nothing safe about the traditional job. People get fired and lose their jobs all the time, especially in this economy.
Yeah.
What matters is that is who you be, and that you're driven as a person to, like, handle whatever circumstances come in and go figure out whatever it's going to take. But, like, I don't know, there's no realistic set path. And, like, who wants to be realistic anyway? Why live a life like, oh, yeah, I played it safe. I lived every day not living up to my potential. But I never missed paying a bill. Shit, dude. And I'm not saying, like, don't pay your bills. Like, do that. But, like, why? Why? And whatever that means for you. Like, if your passion is to... Like my sister, for example. My sister's a brilliant chef. And a large part of her... She's about to go travel the world and go woofing, worldwide organic farming. You basically live and work on a farm in exchange for room and board.
Huh.
And because she wants to go travel and she wants to go explore the world. So she's doing it. And it's really not that difficult. Like, you just buy a plane ticket, and then you get on the plane, and then you're there. Like, you're traveling. Surprise! Like, the rest you'll figure out. But so she's traveling the world. But I bring her up because part of her vision is to have a self-sustaining farm, ranch place where she raises her own food. They cook their own, they grow their own crops and everything else, and it's a self-sustaining environment.
Mm-hmm.
That's her vision. Awesome. That's totally possible, right? But so whatever it is for you, if it's raising kids or starting a business or pursuing a passion in something creative, it doesn't matter. Like, it's your life. You're the one who gets to live it. So do what makes you happy.
What would the Ben of now? What's the one piece of advice that you would give to the Ben back like 10 years ago?
Buy Apple stock. Buy as much stock in Apple as you can. It's going to pay off. Don't worry so much. I think I lived a lot of my youth stressed out. Like, really wanting to do it right, really wanting to do good, really wanting to make the right decisions, and live life the way I'm supposed to, whatever the hell that means, according to who? Whom? But so I think what I've learned as I've gotten older is to surrender and be in the flow of life in a different way. That, like, there is no right or wrong, I don't think. Like, those are just constructs that we randomly decide, like, this is right and this is wrong, but we just sort of decide that. But so I think I would tell my younger self not to stress out so much. Like, it's going to be okay. Do what makes you happy. And it will work out. It doesn't mean it won't be hard. I've had tremendous challenges, and they keep coming up, right? Like, I'm going along, my company's great, and then bam, it's out of business. Whew, okay. What's next?
I'm alive.
You know, but what's cool is that, first of all, I'm alive. I live in America. I have as much food as I want and clean water and a car. Like, so I'm winning.
Winning.
Like, I won the genetic lottery that was like, here, you get to be white in America. Like, awesome. Like, my worst day is not going to be that bad.
Oh my God.
Like, it's true. Like, I'm so fortunate. I have every privilege. I was born a white, upper middle class, heterosexual male in America. Like,
Bam.
I got it all. So, I don't know what my point was. Really, that I'm lucky. But that it's not worth getting crazy stressed out over, and that it will work out. Oh, I know what I was saying. That there may be struggles, and that's okay. That's part of life. I think it's part of what makes life beautiful. But that shouldn't be a deterrent. Like, of course there's going to be obstacles.
Yeah.
But it's more about, if I'm committed, it doesn't matter what obstacles get in my way.
Yeah, that's huge.
My company goes out of business, okay, I'll start another one. I'll do something else. This happens, I run into this thing or that thing, that's okay. I'm committed. I'm going to make it happen no matter what.
You're talking about being committed. And I think there's a lot of people that want things. I want to go to Hawaii, but I want a pony. That doesn't mean I'm gonna get a pony. I mean, what's like, how important is it to be committed to what you really want? Because it's like I like, for me, I want to have like more clients. I want to help inspire people to get in the best shape of their life. There's one thing I want to do, but until I'm committed, actually take action. Like, how important is that to be? I'd say that the difference from wanting and being committed.
I think it's all there is. Either you're committed or you're not. And to get a little bit woo-woo, like, whatever the results are in your life, show you what you're committed to.
Yes.
Whatever you have, that's what you were committed to. If your life's in shambles and it sucks, like, that's what you were committed to. That's okay. That's not right or wrong. What's amazing is that I believe I am completely at choice for every single thing in my life. And I choose to believe that I am 100% responsible for everything in my life. Good, bad, indifferent, whatever the things are in my life, if I'm rich, poor, bad things are happening, good things, whatever, I'm responsible. That may or may not be true. Like, I don't know.
Yeah.
Like, Maybe when I die, I find out like what the algorithm was. But
Actually, Ben, this is how it really
I
goes.
carry the two. I forgot. But like I choose, and I feel that it's an empowered place for me to come from that says everything in my life I choose, because it means that I can choose something different. If I say that,
Yes.
if I say that I'm not at choice, oh, it's their fault, or this happened, or the world, or the government. If that's what I say, then that means I'm powerless.
Yeah.
That means it's up to the government, which by the way is just people. The government did this. The government's just us. It's people. Sorry, that's a whole other tirade.
I know that's another topic.
The government did this to me. It's like a building, like walking around, like smiting people. But so I choose to say, okay, I'm 100% responsible, which means that I can change it.
Yeah.
And that I can change my life in an instant. If I'm not happy with the results that I have, I can make different choices and choose to be committed to something else.
Yeah.
And to say the difference between wanting something and being committed to it, I think is taking action, is sort of how that shows up.
Yeah.
Like I can say that I want a successful relationship, but until I'm committed, I'm not going to do anything about it.
Yeah.
Or take any steps, whether it's in terms of something I'm doing or working on like my way of being so that I'm being connected and loving in my relationship or seeking it out. But so I think even in the language is so huge to say, instead of like, well, I want to be an actor. I'm committed to being an Oscar-winning actor, right? And the specificity at which we speak tells our subconscious brain what we're up to. Like I've watched it. I proved it to myself over the last 15 years. Like it's crazy how much effect the language that we use and how we talk to ourselves dramatically, like more than anything else, impacts what shows up in our life. So if I say, well, life's really hard and every time I almost succeed, like something happens and I fail, that will happen. I guarantee you that will happen, and you will create that every single time.
No, it's funny. I was like, because I know we film this on Wednesday nights. I'm like, damn it, Ben, you want to do it on a different weekend? I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna get this guy on somehow. I'm gonna call the studio. We're gonna get this guy on the show, no matter what.
It's like when you're committed, like you make it happen. It doesn't matter because what I've learned is that everything else is just a circumstance. Time, money, scheduling, people's opinions, whatever. If I'm really committed, then none of those will matter. Or put another way, like I will handle them responsibly such that I still get to the things that I want. But the level of specificity that I use has a huge impact. I'm big on goal setting and planning. I have this huge annual review that I do every year. I look
have
back.
You back on the show for that.
I look back at the whole last year, and then I drive back to Colorado with my friend Robin. We spend 15 hours, the whole drive, like 15, 16 hours, looking back at the whole year. And then when we drive back to LA, we plan our coming year. Actually, I have a document you can put on your website, or if you go to creativelifework.com right now, or my website, benwhitehair.com, you can download it. I have the template that I use to plan the whole year.
I'm going to add that in the show notes.
And I talk about being really specific about goal setting. Like you see it with fitness, right? If someone's like, well, I want to be healthier. Cool. Well, have an almond and like you just accomplished your goal, right? What does that mean? Or you say, well, I want to lose weight or whatever, right? The way that you set your goals will have a huge impact on whether or not you achieve them, right?
Yeah.
So if I say, well, I want to go to the gym more.
Like, what is that?
So what does that mean? Like if I go to the gym once, then like I guess I did it. And I saw this happen as I was doing my annual reviews of like, oh, when I set goals like that, it happened. I worked out more. I went to the gym once. But then when I said, I'm committed to going to the gym at least 2 times a week for a minimum of 15 minutes, all of a sudden, right, and there's a lot of pieces in there. If you set, for me, I found that if I set small goals, like rather than, like my real goal is that I really want to be in the gym 3 hours a week. Like that's really what I'm aiming for. But when I set the goal as, for me what it is, I say I'm going to step foot in the gym in my gym clothes 3 days a week. Because if I put my gym clothes on and I walk to the gym, I'm gonna work out. Like, I'm gonna lift some weights.
Yeah.
But mentally, it's way easier for me to say, you know what? All I have to do is put on my gym clothes and walk to the gym, and I could leave. And maybe once a year I'll do that. I'll be like, no, you know what? I'm walking to the gym, and then I'm leaving because I've got stuff to do and I can't work out today, but I'm gonna accomplish my goal.
Or just getting there.
But just
showing
getting there.
up.
But even 5 minutes, right? But the thing for me is if I say, well, it has to be an hour,
Mm.
all of a sudden the day gets away from me, and I'm like, I don't have an hour.
Yeah, that's one of the things that I tell my clients, like you don't need to grind out an hour if you don't have an hour. I'd rather have you get at least, I mean, if you can get 20 minutes in or 10 minutes in, that's a workout's better than no workout at all.
Totally. And I would say that's true for anything. So if I'm wanting to be a writer, write for 15 minutes a day, every day, like no shit. And start small. And probably after 15 minutes, you might be on a roll and you'd be like, dude,
Yeah.
I'm jamming. And now all of a sudden it's 4 hours later and like, I wrote a book. But at least do 15 minutes a day because you can always find 15 minutes. Whatever that thing is that you're committed to, start small, but do it every single day. Consistency, and build that habit, and you start to reinforce like, oh, I'm doing this. I'm being a writer. I'm writing every day. And now all of a sudden, not that much time goes by and you're like, holy crap, I just wrote 20 blog posts or half my book or whatever. Like, it's crazy how fast it adds up. But as humans, our brains, we dramatically overestimate what we can do in a day, and we underestimate what we can do in the long term.
Oh.
So we say like, oh my God, I can do this today, I'll get this done, I'll get this done. And
I
it's
do
like,
that all the time.
crap, like I only got like 2 things done.
I do
Damn
that
it.
all the time.
Right? Like we totally
It's
do
like
that.
it's a huge stress.
But we underestimate what's possible over time, what you could accomplish in a year, in 5 years, in 10 years. It's amazing
That's true.
what's possible. And I've done a lot of research and spent a lot of time on time management, productivity, tools, email, that kind of thing. The thing that I realized, though, there's a book called, oh man, let me think of it. It'll come to me. There's a book that talks about, instead of time management, energy management. Oh, it's The Power of Full Engagement.
Huh.
The Power of Full Engagement is a book that basically talks about managing your energy. Mental energy, physical energy, spiritual energy, and emotional energy. And they say it's just like the gym, right? To build muscle, you go and you stress your muscles, you break them down, and then you recover. You have to have a period of rest, and then you build muscle that way, right?
Mhm.
Otherwise, it won't work.
No.
Same deal. To build your mental energy, you stress it, you put stress on the system, and then you recover, and you build up your muscle, your mental muscles.
Yeah.
And both the workout, the stress of it is imperative. You don't lift something or do whatever, right?
Yeah.
If you're not breaking down the muscle, it won't grow.
Yeah.
And if you don't recover, it won't grow,
Yeah.
right? And sometimes people get in one or the other, right?
Yeah.
They're constantly
They're
stressing it.
Overtraining.
Mental energy, right? Or like, I'm just constantly going and I never recover. You actually aren't going to grow that way. You're actually not going to improve. What I found is that managing time is one thing, but like at the end of the day, there are 24 hours. And so you can do things to manage productivity and all of that, but really what it comes down to is managing energy. How do I maximize the energy and creativity that I have when I'm doing things? So finding like especially in college or high school, my body was working in such a way that between 8 p.m. and like 3 a.m. is when I was the most productive and when I was the most creative. I wrote probably 95% of every paper that I ever turned in between 8 p.m. and like 2, 3 a.m. That's how my body worked. Now I'm finding that my energy is a bit different, and those late hours I'm just not quite as productive and focused. So I find where in my day am I most productive and creative, and how do I manage my health, my fitness, my diet, my everything else so that my energy is maximized, and that's what will lead to productivity. And that I'm managing all 4 of those energy sectors, right? My mental energy, physical energy, emotional, and spiritual energy. If I'm not recharging, stressing, and recovering each of those, I'm not going to be maximally efficient and effective. Yeah.
Well, yeah, that's huge, especially for me. What I used to do is like I gotta I gotta work at this time and I'm exhausted,
Mhm.
and I just force the issue, and I produce crap. So
yeah, well, and you know, sometimes there's a time and place to like push through and like, you know, I've done that where I put something out that's like, you know, I've got to get this done.
Yeah.
It's kind of just a task that needs to be finished.
well, it's like better done than
Yeah,
yeah.
so better shipped than nothing, but it's exactly what I found, and I was sort of weary of it for a while. I was like, no, there's no way. But what I found was that when I'm sleeping enough and I'm taking care of my body and I'm meditating and I'm working out and all of those things, the work that I'm actually producing is far superior than if I'm just pushing myself to the limit just to keep making shit.
yeah. Oh, yeah, I that feels late nights doing designs and whatnot.
Uh-huh.
Oh, that sucks.
And when there are times when I get on a roll and I'm passionate about something and I'm
Yeah.
working on a website or I'm, you know, producing something
And
or
when we have that
cranking
moment
through
of
email or I'm
inspiration.
in the flow state, right? Like, there's a lot of research on the flow state. Awesome.
Yeah, there's no argument against that.
Like, do it, you know, live in that. And, you know, I tend to be an advocate for the other side of the scale of like, push yourself. You can do more. You can work harder.
Yeah.
Make your dreams happen. Like, go after it. Like, I tend towards that side of the scale. I was so far on that side of the scale that as I've gotten older, I've kind of like come back to a little bit of like a middle ground of taking care of myself and like taking care of my body and finding that balance
Yeah.
between. I think it's a constant process for me anyway of finding the balance between really pushing myself to the edge and working as hard as I can and taking care of myself and making sure that I have days kind of like this weekend for the first time in a while where I kind of just took naps and like because last week like this whole last week I didn't really sleep much. I had stuff going on and I was coaching and I had all these things and so I didn't really sleep.
I can imagine that.
And then I was like, you know what? My body's exhausted. So I kind of just slept and sat in my hot tub and like went to the gym and took a day off. But it wasn't a day off. Like I needed that day to
Really recover.
go into that recovery
Yeah.
phase.
What do you call it? I mean, I think that's where some people feel guilty for not doing anything. Like
Mhm.
it's okay to have a lazy day, and I know that's how it was for me, especially like when I was first starting the whole coaching business going. I'm like, all right, I gotta market, I gotta reach out to people,
Uh-huh.
and then and Stephanie called me out on it. Like, dude, we're not even spending time. We gotta then. Now we have lazy days where we just sit on the couch, watch Netflix.
Uh-huh.
and catch
Well,
up
and
on-
that's partly why you work so hard, right? So that you can have a lazy day. There's like a proverb, or like an allegory where this guy, like the successful businessman comes to this town and there's a guy fishing.
Oh, I love
right?
that.
And there's like this guy fishing. He's like, man, I could teach you how to like double, triple, quadruple like the fish. Like if you do it this way and this, you could be bringing all this fish and you could start a business and you could get other people to fish for you. And he like walks him through the whole thing. And the fisherman's like, well, why would I do that? He's like, well, because then you could have all this money and you could, you know, create all this stuff and blah, blah, blah. And the fisherman's like, well, why would I do that? And the businessman's like, well, yeah, so you have all these things so that then you could just like go on vacation and just lie by the beach and do whatever you want. And the fisherman's like, that's what I'm doing right now. So taking the time to enjoy those moments in life, whether it's, you know, with your girlfriend or your kid or yourself, to have that time. And what I realized was, like, sometimes I have to tell myself, like, this is helping me be productive. This is my recovery time. If I don't, I did it today. I was like, started to feel guilty because I kind of wasn't really doing anything. I was kind of like just zoning out and like checking Facebook or whatever. And I started to feel guilty. And then I was like, no, you know what? If I don't take this time for myself to let my brain kind of decompress and not be going,
Yeah.
I'm going to be super ineffective this week. So it's actually, like, I need to do this. Like, it's important for my productivity to do nothing right now.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Just turn off.
House of Cards is so good.
Oh my god, I gotta get into that.
Oh, so good.
I'm seeing
Brilliant
all my
show.
friends.
Brilliant show.
Um,
What Emroy doesn't know is that he's on the House of Cards right now.
oh man, I started episode 1. I think that's it. I love Kevin Spacey. Anyways,
Brilliant.
well, what are the current projects that you're working on?
So currently, I have a couple things going. I'm my friend Ryan Basham, who you may know,
Yeah.
he and I are starting essentially like a coaching seminar for creatives. So whether you're an actor, a writer, entrepreneur, people who are creative, and it's called Creative Life Work. And our philosophy is that in order for your creative life to work, your whole life gets to work.
Yeah.
If your relationship is in total breakdown, or you're not paying your bills, or your health is shit, you're not going to be that effective in your creative world, you know? Like, you can be working as hard as you can to be an actor, but if the rest of your life is shit, like, there's only so far you're going to get, and it's not going to work, and what's the point? Like,
Yeah.
you get to be happy and loving your life while you're pursuing these things.
Yeah.
So, we're currently we're just about to launch the first seminar, so there'll be like day-long things, and we're going to be putting up a blog and offering other things with it, but really around the idea of supporting people in enjoying the journey and enjoying the process, and in so doing, getting further in your career, in the creative pursuits and the things that you actually want. So I'm doing that. I teach social media. I manage social media for different companies and that sort of thing, and coach people on that, especially actors. I've flown around the country teaching actors how to use social media. And really it's about relationships and maintaining those relationships. They just happen to be online.
Yeah.
But so that's a whole other talk I
But
could
if
give.
people can come off as robotic, buy my stuff now.
Exactly. Well, then the one quick thing that I'll say is that I say people think of social media as a megaphone. Here's my stuff. Here's my stuff. Here's my stuff. Turn the megaphone around and listen. Social media is an amazing listening device, and that's where the value is when you listen and engage with people. That's really where the value is. So I'm teaching social media. I'm acting. I'm working on a number of different acting projects. I'm producing a short film right now that we've got some. It's not like official yet, so I probably can't say it. But we've got like a big name director and a big name actor who will be in it with me. And so I'm producing that, and then putting a couple other film projects together that I'm working on to be in movies and get at it from sort of the producing end and the life of an actor, which is a lot of marketing and networking and
Yep.
auditions and projects that friends are doing and finding time to go to the gym, probably not as much as Emroy would tell me to do to meet my goals. But, living life. I mean, I love living in Los Angeles, and I am very intentional about making time for my family and my friends. And, at the end of the day, that's why I get up in the morning, is because I love people and I love being surrounded by
Amazing
people like
people,
you
yeah.
and the people in my life who are just inspire me every day. So making sure that I'm doing that.
Yeah, that's freaking dang. I love how you brought up making time to connect with friends, connect with people. 'Cause
So important.
It's so easy to get caught up in the grind, just like
Yeah, and the thing that I realized too, especially, I mean, I think in any business, but especially in entertainment, it's the relationships. I
Yeah.
mean, yes, I do the work, and like it's important for me to be a really good actor, and I go to class, and I do the marketing, and I have my materials, but the projects I'm working on that are the biggest things I've done to date are because of relationships that I started 3 years ago. So what I found in the entertainment industry, though I would say anywhere, is that relationships are the drivers of progress. And I started measuring my success, yes, by like the goals that I was accomplishing, and like, was I on TV and did I book this and meet these other goals, but also how many relationships did I create? How many new relationships did I foster? What are the level of the relationships that I have? The people who I'm interacting with, what level in their careers are they? And I started measuring my success and progress by that. And I've seen it. I mean, like I said, the things in my life right now, the big film projects I'm doing, are from relationships that have been nurtured and fostered over the course of many, many years, that I wasn't necessarily looking for something. It wasn't like, oh, this person's going to give me something. Like, I'm going to get something out of this relationship. It was like, no, like, I like this person. I'm going to add value to their life, add value to the relationship. And then all of a sudden, right day, right time, right place, and like, boom, I became an investor in a Broadway show, and this film project is coming together, and I'm connecting them with this other person who has a film fund, and all of these things that all of a sudden it was the right time, right place years later, right? It's just was plugging away and maintaining the relationship and being a good person and adding value and helping where I could, and then all of a sudden, it's turning into something else.
That's crazy. It's like I like how you're bringing up. It's not immediate. It's this process.
I think it's
years
I tend to take a long-term view of things. I think any career and life is a marathon, not a sprint, right? And if I treat every relationship, every opportunity as like, oh my God, this is it. Like, I have to get this thing. I've got to book this job with this person. I might be able to make something happen, but then I'm actually shortchanging myself of something bigger and better down the road.
Yeah, that's good.
So not to, like, yes, living life like every day counts, and that yes, I'm creating results now, and I'm living in abundance now, and I'm, you know, in the present moment living all those things, but also knowing that, especially with relationships, taking the long view.
Yeah, I think it's especially some people can confuse like urgency. You gotta make it happen now. I'm like, the pressure can get. For me, like I feel like the I'm more of a process kind of guy, and I know if I'm under pressure, and I know I can force the issue where it's like where it there's a lot more where I can get the result, but like, someone might get hurt in the long run. Not someone like but I might have said something like I unintentionally because I was so focused on what I was trying to create.
Sure. Yeah. And I think when I take the time to say, no, stop, you know what? Let me do this in a way that is healthy and supportive to all involved. Every single time I've seen that the long-term result is always far superior than I could have imagined.
Yeah. Last question. If there's one thing, like, what's the one thing that's driving you to keep going now?
The one thing that drives me to keep going is that I want to make a difference. Like I just have this deep down desire that probably came from something in my childhood of like I want there to be like millions of people at my funeral, you know, like that kind of thing. Like I want there to be millions of people who say my life was better because I knew Ben, or because Ben was in it. Like my life is better, and I just love that, being in service and supporting people in whatever way that looks, to have their life be better, to get anyone one step closer to their dreams, and in my own life to live it in such a way that gives others permission to do that, right? Like, who am I to say, yeah, go live your dreams and be happy, if I'm not doing that, if I'm not being that, right? So I wake up every day saying, okay, what's possible? That's what I'm going to create. I'm going to have my life. I'm going to be happy. I'm going to do the things I want. I'm going to be around amazing people. I'm going to have all the monikers of success that I want, because it's possible, and I'm committed to supporting as many people as possible in doing the same thing.
Nice. Where can people connect with you on social media?
I'm easy to stalk. All of the easiest, the
I
number
do
one.
it all the time.
I know. The number one place is benwhitehair.com. My website has links to everything else. It's my name is on. It's everything. So Twitter @benwhitehair, Facebook.com/benwhitehair, Instagram @benwhitehair. I'm on Google Plus and MySpace. Don't really use those.
I'm sorry, MySpace.
But yeah, Ben Whitehair. Type my name into the Google.
Yeah, and it's spelled how it sounds.
Yeah, spelled white hair.
Except he's kind of dirty blonde.
Yeah, I'm working on it. One day.
Well, yeah, thanks so much for coming on the show. Everything we mentioned, all the websites, all his productivity templates is going to be on the show notes. So whether you're watching this or listening to this, thank you guys for watching Profiles and Drivers. Dude, thank you so much for coming by.
Thanks so much. Thanks for having me.
I'll catch you guys in the next episode.
And I'm also the founder of Cabo Modern and Cabo Modern Legacy, and I also am part of Kinjas, and I've worked with the Beat Freaks and Fanny Pack.
Yeah. So tell me, like, it's a lot of people don't know, I guess,